Alright guys, in today's video we're looking at a rear heater hose that has a coolant leak. If I come up here and wipe this off and we zoom in, we're going to see that this plastic fitting on this hose is cracked. And then what's going to happen here while I'm talking, you're going to see the coolant just ooze out of that crack. Hopefully this light is catching it all. This is a 1999 Suburban GMT400, and again it has rear heat, and so you can see the coolant is pooling up here because this plastic piece on this quick connect side of the metal, and then this is quick connect, and then it's crimped onto this old rubber hose, has cracked and it's letting the coolant out. And the engine's not running, and there's no pressure in the cooling system, so it's just oozing itself out at regular atmospheric pressure. So this is a discontinued hose, and we're going to have to figure out how we're going to repair this, and I'm going to take you through that today. Alright, so to proceed with this repair, we've got to get this to let go. You know, if this was in the first 5 years or so of its life, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Give a pinch on each of these ears and it would wiggle off. But at this point, 30 years in, that's not going to be the case. So the first thing we got to do is get the adhesion loosened up on the inside with the O-rings that it has so that it'll twist. And be prepared in doing this for the possibility of it just breaking altogether. I'm using these plastic lined pliers just to try to avoid that. I just want to kind of work this around. To some extent, I can use this leaking coolant internally, hopefully, to lubricate this. Something else I can try, if we can get good access, try to turn this down a little bit. We can use some silicone spray if we can get it in at the appropriate point. We can try to work that into these O-rings as well. But this will take some time. You just got to be a little bit patient here. We want to get this to where we can easily twist it by hand. And we're almost there. So when we can twist it by hand, we should have good luck doing the original release. So let's give that a shot. So I'm going to try to pinch both of these and pull this guy off at the same time. And we lucked out. We took a bath in coolant, but we lucked out. All right, so I'm going to let this run out here for a bit, and then we'll come back. All right, this guy looks like he's about done. The only coolant we should be worrying about here coming out is what's in the line to the rear heater core and just part of the hard line that this guy connects to. So now we have enough slack to kind of let this drip out the rest of the way. Not much at all. So if I can get the camera to go down a little bit. So we're just going to continue to let this ooze out of here until it's completely done. All right, it's still kind of dripping a little bit, but it's enough to work with now. So now we're going to get this little plastic coupler piece up here that's still stuck on. So if we can get that to let go. Of course, that just looks like it's going to not cooperate. We're just going to have to break this off, I think. See if I can get the other side. Brought a little prying tool here. What I might have to do with this is cut it off, but nope. All right. Looks like he's going to come off. All right, that's off there. And then we can clean the male end. Then I'll show you the OE style of repair that I'm going to be doing here. Now, if you had any pitting on here, you might take some steel wool or some brass wool and clean that off. If you do, make sure you put something in the hose itself so you don't get any of the little pieces inside the hose while you're doing that. Put this back where we had it. And I'll show you what we're going to use to repair this. So like I said, we're going to try to do an OE type repair. So what I'm going to put on here is a GM 2265 7120. What's a 2265 7120, you may ask? Well, that is a replacement coupler. Right? So now we've got our coupler reinstalled. Now we've got to get the hose piece on. And so what I'm going to do with that, there's two ways you could go about this. If you wanted to get a Dremel, you could try to cut the aluminum crimp on this guy, but I'm not going to go that route. What I'm going to do is just take a pair of hose cutters, and we are going to cut this hose, if I can get this camera a little bit lower for that. Got it sitting up here on a magnetic mount so I can get both my hands free. We're going to come up here and try to cut this right level, or I should say in line with that crimp, so we can get as much of this rubber as we can. All right, and that's going to allow us to slide this on. But we're not done yet. Once we slide it on, we're going to need some way to keep it on. So what we're going to use to hold it is a constant tension clamp. Again, GM. We're going to put a 1157 0616 is the type of clamp I'm going to use for this repair. It's one of these constant tension types. It looks like this. So I'm just going to get a pair of pliers and we'll be able to sink that on here. All right. So we're coming up with a pair of hose clamp pliers that look like this, so that we can get that guy on there. In fact, let me see if I can move the camera back so we can get a wider view. There, this is a little better for you guys. Take this back off. Now what we'll do is we'll come up with these pliers and we'll work this clamp onto what's left of the hose. And then we'll work the hose onto this piece we just installed up to this hilt. What I might have to do here is to get it to go all the way on. I might have to pull it off. Just fish it on by hand. Sorry about that, guys. I just don't have the leverage to push this on while it being in the camera frame. All right, sorry about that. Now I'm going to work this back onto the coupler piece so that it stays locked. Now we'll bring this clamp over and we'll put it right there. And that should be a perfect repair for this. All OE parts. We can use this repair approach for both the inlet and outlet of these heater hoses, these rear heater hoses, for both this piece here that's right below the front of the passenger door, as well as for the other two ends of these lines that run up to the heater core in the rear. Let me show you those. And then in the rear of the vehicle, I mentioned to you guys the same type of quick connect couplers are used. So these part numbers that I've showed you, that I'll put also in the video description, would apply to these rear hoses that go directly into the rear heater core as well. All right, guys, the last step that we'll have in this is to top off any of the coolant that we lost in the repair procedure. I'm going to be using this GM AC Delco 12378390 is the GM number. 105027 is the AC Delco number. It's a 50/50 premix of Dexcool. We'll top it off to the cold mark on the reservoir. We'll rinse off any of the coolant from the repair area. We'll take it for a test drive and we'll check for leaks. If we don't have any, then we're done. If you do, it's most likely going to be adjusting the hose and the hose clamp. I can't imagine any other source of a leak for this particular type of original equipment repair. Again, the part numbers will be in the video description. If you got questions or comments about what we did here today, go ahead and leave them below and I'll try to help. If you found this video useful and it saved you some money so you could do it yourself, I'd appreciate you paying it forward by hitting that like button. And as always, thanks for watching.